Just a note to people, we are short of a quorum this evening. We can have a meeting, but until there is a quorum, you can't vote on anything. So if you want to begin, we can begin. It's just considered a non-meeting. You can go through the agenda. Mr. Werner can make his reports, and then by the time we get to new business, hopefully we will have established a quorum and we can vote. Otherwise, we would have to not vote on anything in new business, and it would just be considered a non-meeting. You're allowed to have a non-meeting with everything but voting on new business or old business that requires a vote.
No, so the consent agenda is included in that.
The consent agenda is included. We can skip over that, and you could just approve last meeting's minutes at your next meeting.
Okay.
So you can call our non-meeting to order if you like.
I'd like to call our non-meeting to order. If everybody would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Okay, so tonight we have, I see a Board of Finance member here. Do you have any
No, nothing.
updates?
Nothing yet right now.
Okay. Okay, great. Labor Union representative, Mr. Shalansky, says that he is joining in on the live stream, but he does not have any comments or updates tonight. Okay, and then we can just go into the updates from the principals, and maybe we'll start with Ms. Bauer.
Sure.
Thank you.
So in terms of teaching and learning, our universal assessments are complete, and teachers have been meeting with their data teams to analyze the assessment data and to make decisions about differentiated instruction for their students. All grade levels have reviewed the expectations for our FAST block, which is our intervention block, and are providing targeted small group instruction during that time. In addition to this, our instructional specialists in both literacy and numeracy have begun coaching cycles across all grade levels. Finally, our kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers hosted colleagues from Marlborough today. Much like we visited other districts many years ago, the Marlborough teachers came to us today along with their specialists to see our Foundations Phonics program in action. They had a wonderful visit, and our kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers were wonderful hosts. In PTO news, the annual Jogathon was a huge success this year. They far surpassed their goal, which is wonderful for all of our students. And the East Hampton Elementary PTO also is going to be awarding both our school and Center School with a Kona ice truck as sort of a nice little prize for all of their hard work, jogging, and earning money for future programs. In addition to the Jogathon, the PTO also posted a kindergarten ice cream social on the front lawn of Memorial School last Thursday. Families brought blankets, they had their ice cream treats picnic style, and they all kind of got to know one another as new kindergarten families to Memorial School. Some of our other initiatives as part of our PBIS programming, the students who participate in our STARS program have been asked to help deliver our Cheetah Pride trackers, which is how students keep track of their cheetah tickets that they earn for showing exemplary behavior. This has been a real confidence boost to these students, and is helping grow a stronger connection between students in this program and their grade level peers. And then finally, we have a lot of news these past 2 weeks. Finally, all of Memorial School would like to extend a huge thank you to our very own hero, Mr. Kyle Evans, third grade teacher, who during snack time very efficiently and successfully stepped in to perform the Heimlich maneuver on a child who was choking during snack. And he just did all the right things in the exact moment that it was needed, and we are all extremely grateful.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Right. At Center School, we've been identified as a Heart of Gold top school by the American Heart Association. We were one of the top 10 schools in Connecticut last year to fundraise for the American Heart Association through the Kids Heart Challenge. So very proud of all of our families, students, as well as Ms. Robinson for leading that charge. We're excited the Sensor School STEM Lab is back up and running. That began this past week in our Library Media Center. So all students will experience engaging with Lego robotics, snap circuits, and coding activities. And student council elections are taking place over the course of October. We look forward to our newly elected leadership to bring some fresh ideas to the principal's office and to the Center School student body.
Thank you.
At the middle school, professional development for staff on Friday went really well. We began our time with a team building activity and then determined crafted goals on student growth and development. In collaboration with Jen Gove and the help of Christine Gilby, we will begin our club called Panther Chefs. We had an interest meeting last week to determine different foods and recipes students would want to make. It was a great turnout when we look to begin that session in November. Tomorrow during Flex is our summer reading celebration, and we're happy to announce that over 92 students read 738 books over the course of the summer, which is fantastic. So we're going to celebrate them tomorrow. And we are pleased to welcome Alicia Gartzka as our 6th-8 literacy specialist. She started today, and she's really excited to begin her work at the middle school.
Thank you.
And at the high school, tomorrow's a big day for our 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students, as we'll be administering the PSAT. And for 11th graders, it's also the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So students have an opportunity to qualify and compete with other students around the country to be considered a National Merit Scholar. And we've had some commended students in the past couple of years, so it's a great opportunity for our students to prepare for future SATs and the junior class, the SAT in the spring. This year it's a big change for the SAT. It's actually a virtual test online as opposed to pen and pencil. So that's a new change the state has given to us. We're really excited about that. We're making final preparations for our November 5th. We're going to call it our Fall Chill. It will be an opportunity for not necessarily a homecoming dance, but a early winter, let's say this last week, fall dance for our kids. Thought that would be a really nice thing that for the kids will be outside, so we asked them to dress warm. In the building, we had our professional development session on Friday afternoon, where teachers had the opportunity to work on their teacher goals for the upcoming year. And then we also had some formal training on gender identity, how to work with students who are transitioning from A to B or B to C, however. And we had a lot of great conversations around just vocabulary and how we treat each other, which I thought was really great. And lastly, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges just sent back their findings from their 2-year report, which was a follow-up to our accreditation from a number of years ago. We have some really good work to do, centered around curriculum and instruction, and that will be the focus of our professional learning for teachers for the remainder of the school year, and then going forward. We look forward to a great session with the superintendent on the new NEAS standards on November 2nd, and then our continued work around that process.
Great, thank you.
Just a note for our live stream audience that we achieved a quorum at 6:40 p.m., so we can now count this as an official meeting. And we also got an additional member at 6:42.
Okay, great. Let's see. Rodney, do you have anything that you'd like to address?
Nothing in addition to what was shared by the schools.
Okay, great. Karen?
Something specific, thank you.
Okay, great. Audience of citizens, if anybody would like to speak, just state your name and address, please. Yes.
Christina Tamaro-Zagan, 34 South Main Street. Thank you. Data was released last week from the Connecticut Children's Medical Center regarding our inpatient surge. Information in the Hartford Current regarding this crisis states CCMC is struggling to manage a surge in children showing up to its emergency department seeking urgent behavioral health care. In the past few weeks, the number of children in need of such care has tripled in comparison to what it was over the summer, forcing families in crisis to wait in hallways for hours on end before obtaining a bed for their child. To reiterate, this is not a surge in hospitalizations caused by COVID infections. This is a surge caused by a mental health crisis in children. The article goes on to state that CCMC saw a drop in these hospitalizations over the summer, but a surge has, quote, returned in full force this fall as children return to school. For many children, the profound disruptions of the COVID-19 pandemic, from remote learning to reduced social contact, significantly exacerbated or led to the emergence of experiences of anxiety and depression, end quote. Again, I will encourage the board and the administration to seriously consider conducting a risk analysis of the current COVID measures being implemented. Children ages 5 to 14 are 5 times more likely to commit suicide than to die from COVID-19, according to the CDC. Again, we as parents understand that funding is at risk if state guidelines aren't followed. However, action needs to be taken to, at the very least, question the risks of these measures and the toll it's taking on our children's mental health. Myself and many parents at the Memorial School open house a few weeks ago found ourselves looking to each other in concern as we continued to hear the mantra that this year everything was back to normal, except for the laundry list of items that were not normal, including all students being forced to eat lunch all facing forward, military style, 3 feet apart in assigned seats. I'm one of many parents that have experienced an emotionally distraught child due to this measure alone, as I have to explain to my crying 6-year-old why they have to sit alone at lunch on numerous occasions when the 2 children at her assigned table are not in school, and she's not allowed to sit anywhere else. Now, I know this is just one example that may seem insignificant, but this is just one example of many measures that add up to a lot, especially for our young learners. The CCMC surge is evidence of the impact these measures are having on students' mental health. The ask at this time is to simply question the powers that be, how these measures outweigh the risk of COVID, and conduct a risk analysis that proves these measures are harmful. On a completely separate note, I'm wondering about the state-issued curriculum that the high school is being mandated to offer as an elective this year. I'm wondering if perhaps, even at a later date, I know you might not have this information now, Mr. Smith, if we have anybody that has elected that course.
So even though in audience of citizens, it's really just
I
public
yeah,
comment.
That's fine.
While the course is being piloted this year, we are not one of the pilot schools.
Okay.
We will be offering it next year.
Okay.
We've got to offer it, but if kids don't elect it, then we don't have to run it.
Perfect. Thank
I
you
have
so much.
shared the curriculum with anyone who has asked,
Yep,
so I'd be glad to,
I've seen it.
okay.
I was just wondering. I wasn't aware that it wasn't being offered this year. I thought it was being offered this year.
Next year is the year that it's required to
Perfect.
be offered.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. Good to see you, Mr. Smith, Michael Buck, Valley Drive. I just want to support Christina and her letter tonight. Also, just reiterate my concerns as a parent in the schools. All these measures, I just want to question. I understand that there's an inability to act with the mandates being sent down from the state and the feds. I could get that. Just asking them to start to question it for the mental health of our kids, based on a lot of articles that are coming out bipartisanly on these issues. Basically, we're asking our kids to be in a constant, unbalanced state of homeostasis. I noticed in my kids. And we're always trying to explain these things to them of why this is like this, and I can't because a lot of them don't make any sense, and they're in this constant fight or flight state that I recognize in my training experience in my life. You know, and part of it, and just to educate others, because we're all smart people and we all have different experiences. And to quote an infamous FBI negotiator, which that's pretty important for communication, effective communication. There's a theory called 73855. And basically what that says is, what you say means far less than how you say it. So 7% of human interaction is actually done through the spoken word, where 38% of it is done through tonality, and the other 55% of it is through body language. And a lot of that comes from in the face. And I think that's what's really throwing off our kids' homeostasis, if you will. And really, a lot of kids I've seen, not a lot, I'm sorry, several families that I know, their kids are having troubles with speaking and speech therapy and things like that. I just wonder if that's really being thrown off. And just to touch on, I did see something online recently, somebody mentioned the federal funding, and it bothered me, and maybe I'm alone in this, but I've always thought less is more. We all have loved our kids to go outside and play rather than play on an Xbox. And, you know, to say that if we question measures, that we're going to be punished and we're going to get less, I disagree. If my kids can see other kids smile, have less anxiety, depression, and learn more effectively through effective communication, then I say let the feds keep their money. And that's why I'm here. I just want to stand up for those that feel that way, and also respect the opinions of those that don't, and listen to them, with empathy. So, thank you so much for hearing me. I appreciate you having me tonight.
Thank you very much for your comments.
To our board members and other audience members, Michael and Christina are both candidates for the Board of Education this November. We appreciate you coming to our meeting tonight.
Thank you. Okay, the consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion that the East Hampton Board of Education adopt the consent agenda?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, committee reports. Student Board of Education representatives. Hello.
Right in the front row tonight.
Yeah, we moved you.
Good evening, everyone. So for our school updates, Yearbook Club has begun formatting this year's yearbook. Many students are taking pictures and capturing memorable moments to publish with friends. Seniors will be submitting their senior quotes this week as well. The Business Club is having a fundraiser on the 19th this month. They'll be serving delicious breakfast to any staff members and the EHS staff, and all are welcome. Spanish Club is hosting Taco Night this Friday. Members in Spanish Club have been organizing ingredients and cooking teams to host this fundraiser, and all are welcome to attend. The Environmental Club had a very successful trip measuring Lake Pokemon. Today after school, they worked on the nature trail and cleaned it up. Members in Interact Club met with Ms. Cheska last Thursday after school and painted and decorated rocks to decorate the outside garden around town. Mr. Lucas's AP U.S. History class will be taking a field trip this Friday down to the New Britain Museum of American Art.
And then this year, the high school is happily bringing back the tradition of doing senior superheroes. This is an event where seniors dress up in group costumes, and the underclassmen bid on whichever group they would like to escort them around the building for the day. And all of the money goes to charity, and this year it looks like it will be the National Breast Cancer Foundation, which I think is really great because it'll be our last fundraising opportunity for the month of October. And this event is not only super fun, but like I said, it does raise money for charity, and it will take place on October 29th. And then for our athletic updates, girls soccer has a record of 5 wins, 5 losses, and 2 ties. Boys soccer has a record of 5 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. And then cross country this Thursday races in the Big Shoreline League meet at home. This is a big meet to see where all the runners really are, because we are actually racing the Shoreline Conference Championship at home this year, so this is our first time running the course against some really competitive teams. So I know that we're all excited and a little bit nervous for that, but it'll be a good, checkpoint to see where everybody is. And then volleyball currently has a record of 10 wins and 2 losses, and they are having a very successful season, which I know we take pride in our volleyball program, so we're all happy about that. And we're all hoping they can continue the momentum this year into the Shoreline and state tournaments. And then this Friday they are hosting Dig Pink at 5:30 as a varsity game, and that is a fundraiser for the National Breast Cancer Foundation, and it's a pink out, so everybody will be going decked out in all pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And then finally, for our football team, our co-op football team with Prague and Chog, they won their game last Friday 18-0, and that was a pink out as well. And our senior, Chris Bergano, scored a touchdown in the 4th quarter after being pulled out of the game for an injury, so that was really exciting too.
So between taco night and the volleyball game, it sounds like Friday night is big happenings at the school. And for board members, they have the Shoreline meet here Thursday night, but Saturday the 23rd is the big Shoreline Championship. So come up and have a burger at the Burger Shack and watch some cross country on the 23rd if you're available.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Personnel Committee.
The board has a tentative agreement with the teachers union for a contract from 2022 to 2025 that we'll now be voting on later tonight.
Okay, thank you. Policy curriculum, I can speak to that. We do have several policies. First reads, later on in the meeting, and we did have a subcommittee meeting prior to this one tonight. Oh, and Finance, Transportation, Building and Grounds, I can also speak to that. We anticipate a meeting probably next week, Mr. Smith?
Probably next week. We're expecting a quote from DACO, should you wish to continue without going to bid based on what they offer you. That would require permission of the town council, but you have that luxury of looking at what they offer and seeing if that's a direction that you'd like to go.
Okay, so we'll discuss that at the subcommittee meeting and then
Okay.
bring it forward. Okay, great. All right, superintendent's report.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. Or maybe not so quick. Well, that's a disappointment. So this is even a bigger disappointment. Let's see. Stop. There we go. So I just wanted to share a couple things with you because I'd love you to see what's going on in our schools. If you have the time to look at the principal's s'mores each week, the s'more newsletter. This shows you a nice progression of STEM and math. So this is preschool math going on, and we're going to jump right from preschool to the STEM lab that Mr. Sullivan was talking about earlier. Here we have some of our center school students working on a circuit board. I think that is one of the most exciting things to look at. So compliments to our center school and STEM lab, which certainly combines science, math, engineering, and at a young age. And this is what it looks like at the high school. You'll note a couple years ago, we invested in the robotics equipment that was much more appropriate than the little Lego machines that we were using. And the coding language that they use with these, just a great skill for our high school students to have. So compliments to the town and to the board that we've moved in some nice directions as we approach STEM in each of our schools. Our middle school students, we hear a lot about the Interact Club at the high school, but it all begins with the Early Act Club at the middle school, and we had some volunteers at the Goodbye, I don't have it right, Goodbye Lions, hello, Goodbye,
Hello, Lions.
Hello Lions, and Welcome Panthers event. So our middle school students are certainly catching on. You are going to see from me this week a delightful letter I received concerning our high school students involved in the Relay for Life, our high school Interact students. A thanking from the committee, the American Cancer Society, on how impressed they are with our students and how annually they look forward to their excitement at this event. I'll share that letter with you tomorrow. I literally received it as I was going out the door to come here. As the fall continues, here's what learning looks like in a lot of our classrooms. So our students spend a good amount of time outside for bath breaks and learning, depending on the grade level. That's going to change as the weather gets colder, but we've got a beautiful week coming up this week. So anticipate some outdoor classes. If you drive by Main Street, there's always a class or two of center school students out on the lawn. And you heard Principal Bauer speak about our superhero, Kyle Evans. We swung by and on behalf of the board, presented him with the biggest basket of mums we could find from Paul and Sandy's. Just a display of heroism. All of us assumed we would just react quickly and go and do the Heimlich maneuver, and Kyle certainly proved that he was ready for that challenge. So a big thank you to him. You see this in my weekly update and on Facebook page. We're just trying to keep people informed and be transparent about cases and vaccination rates as we continue. Our school bus, and I really want to make sure that we celebrate our school bus drivers on October 22 Even though every now and then we have a bus delay, we are in much better shape than our other neighboring towns as far as bus delivery. A lot of our drivers live right in town, and they are treasures to us every single day. So Friday, October 22, I'm just reminding people, greet your driver, give him a big wave. I know each school is planning something special for our drivers too, so that they feel appreciated. We're doing a flu shot clinic at the school tomorrow. It is open to members of the public. It's open to school staff from 2:45 to 4, and then 4 to 6, anybody can stop in the community for a flu shot. And then something that I'm going to bring to the board at your next meeting to vote on. Project Graduation, as you are aware, raises an extraordinary amount of money each year to make sure our seniors have a great night and a safe graduation night immediately after graduation. It's an all-night party. They've been using the sub-base, but the sub-base has become a little more restrictive, and we've done the last 2 at East Hampton High School, and they've been very successful. So Project Graduation is asking your permission, and you'll vote on this next time, to be able to permanently use East Hampton High School as the location for Project Graduation. They bring in the karaoke machine, they bring in the games, they bring in the hypnotists, so everything that they've offered at the sub-base, which they have to bring in anyway, we're able to bring in here and do it for a lot less money. And that's not a bad thing these days. Last year, the Board of Ed picked up the custodial overtime just as a little gift to Project Graduation in appreciation for all that they do. And they are asking if they could continue to waive custodial overtime. So I will put that in the form of a motion, and you can consider that for your next meeting if you'd like to approve that. And then just a reminder, in November 8th, our meeting, not the next meeting, but 2 meetings from now, you're going to get the entire list of budget requests and details. So November 1, I know it sounds like we're beginning budget relatively early, but this is, we are right on schedule. So November 8th, budget requests, November 1st, budget requests are due from all the schools, and November 8th, we're inviting people to come and just explain why they've asked for what they've asked for. It is also a night that members of the student body, parents, community can come and make their budget requests for things that they'd like you to consider as well. But you'll have a formal written request from everything that comes from the school on that night. And that is it. I have your enrollment report at the place. Not much change since September. Keep in mind, October is the official enrollment that the state counts. So the October 1, they download all of our information from the state, and that is the official state, what they consider our enrollment for the year.
Okay. And on November 8th, we'll have maybe a different makeup of the board.
You will have a different makeup of the
Hopefully
board.
so.
You'll begin that night by electing a new board chair and vice chair. And we'll probably be introducing you to a few new members around the table.
Jump right in with the budget.
And jump right in with the budget.
That's how it works.
What is curious about the budget, I will share with you, the town council has voted to move the budget referendum from May until June. With the General Assembly coming back for their second session, they would like to have as much budget information from the state as possible. Right now, we are still required to hand in our budget on March 1, but I floated the idea of in the future, speaking to the town manager about us pushing our budget process back. If we're going to wait to June, the figures I give you in January are always best guesses as far as gasoline, electricity, insurance, and other things. If we could push March back to an April 1st or even a March 15th, we'd have a lot better figures for you that are more accurate. But in the meantime, March 1 is your deadline for the 22-23 budget, and we will be right on track for that.
Okay, thank you. All right, and now we have a few items from the high school. Mr. Berner? Does he need to-
No, you're fine.
Oh,
Those are both ready to go.
So, good evening.
we're making up to, you want to move or you're good?
I'm loud enough.
Whatever you like, it's good.
So, good evening and thank you. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about our 2021 both advanced placement and SAT data and school reports. And I'll start off with advanced placement exams. The first 2 pages of this show the breakdown of our scores across different courses. And what I'll talk about in a moment is just what I'm most proud of is the amount of both students taking AP courses and the number of exams that students have taken. Our scores, were fairly solid. We saw some growth in some areas and some areas where, things could have gone a little differently. This year was a challenge for many different aspects with AP testing. In most years, we were given 1 window by the College Board. This year, they gave us 3 different windows, so our tests were kind of scattered throughout the school year. They were a version of online, hybrid, or in person, so they were all very different in how they were administered this year. But I feel like our teachers and our students did very, very well overall. Looking at some of our highlights, you look at our calculus AB, we had 9 students get a 3, 4, or 5. Our computer science principles, a fairly new course, we had 14 students, 10 3s, 3 4s. One of the things I'm most proud of is that AP English language score. We had 38 students take the AP English language exam, and 26 of the 38 got a 3, 4, or 5. As we move on with our other courses, and again, I'll break this down in other details. We see physics, another fairly new course, but also a really challenging course. 5 students got a 3 and a 4. And again, some really solid numbers. AP Statistics had 23 students. But the thing I'm most proud of, I don't have a pointer on here, is that we had 204 AP exams were administered this school year. That is an uptick if you look at last year's numbers and the numbers before. We had 113 students take 204 exams. It's roughly 40% of our student body. This is my third time giving you this report as a principal of the high school, and I can think back to last year and the year before that, and I'll say the same thing. My goal is that in the very near future, that number looks like 220 students are taking 400 exams. My goal is to increase offerings for higher level courses for all of our students. And when we come to budget time, I'll talk to you about how I'd like to be able to do that for our students. You look at it holistically over the past 3 years, and looking at last year's numbers, we did very, very well. In some areas we grew, some areas we stayed the same. We did regress a little bit, but last year, to keep in mind for the 2020, that was a very different set of tests. The 2020 AP administration was an outlier. It was 1 question per test. This year, it went back to the more traditional, kind of regular, old school AP exam. And like I mentioned, some areas of growth, but also some areas where we need to improve both our instruction with students as well as our performance. But, and I know Mr. Smith would agree and echo the same sentiment, the more students that take exams, the better off they're going to be because they're taking the course. Studies have shown that simply being in an advanced placement course leads to more success when you graduate from high school, when you get into college, because these are college level courses. Speaking from my experience at home, my son took a couple of AP courses that he was interested in, and he was saying to me, I had to take this class, similar class in college. The high school class was more challenging, but the course prepared me for college. So my goal is for all of our students to have these opportunities, to have more AP offerings for our students and offer more enrollment for them. And again, you see the numbers are on par in some areas with 2019, but in areas where we need to do some growth for moving forward. And when you talk about SAT scores, this was, again, a challenging set of circumstances for our students. The current seniors, this is their school day SAT score from last March. Our evidence-based reading and writing was 514. The state average in Connecticut was 509. Our math scores were 491. The state average was 494. So in summary, we're on or about the state average. And when you look at it, as I talked to you a few minutes ago about the PSATs for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders tomorrow, you can see a progression. So the class of 2022, our current seniors, if you look at their 9th grade score, you can see some steady, I don't mind sharing.
I can see.
Okay. You see some steady growth, from their 9th grade year to March of last school year. You see a 64% growth in English-based reading and writing, and you see a 51% growth in their math score. So yes, those scores are at or above state average, but we also have targeted one of our goals as a district to improve math instruction for all of our students, for these scores to grow even more. You see the class of 2023, the current sophomores. You see a really nice growth from 9th to 10th grade, 448 to 486 in English-based reading and writing. And then in math, you see a 27-point growth. The hope is, and the plan is for tomorrow, with the juniors, no pressure, Ashani, we see some more growth in the junior class tomorrow, and then in March 2022, when they take the SAT, and then our current our current 10th graders, I beg your pardon, you see their scores from last year, and again, we're looking to see some of that similar growth with scores over time. So some highlights, as I said before, 113 students took 204 exams. My goal is for that number to double, if not triple, in the next 3 to 5 years. In SATs, the mean SAT score for the high school, they're on par with mean scores in the state of Connecticut. And again, we've seen growth over time, but I feel like with the right interventions and the right support, we can absolutely see even more growth than that. So a plan of action, as we stated before, as the superintendent has told you and all the district has talked about, math, working with our math consultants, this is a stated goal for the district to improve our math instruction and our math scores. And it's not an overnight growth, it's a process. We're going to see improvement as the 7th and 8th graders come to the high school with this math instruction. We'll hopefully see higher 9th grade scores, which will see higher 10th, 11th, and 12th grade scores. So we're going to continue that work. Our teachers, especially in the math department, are working really hard to analyze the data from previous assessments of PSATs, and then targeting their instruction around that with the use of Khan Academy, with the use of some PSAT practice problems integrated into the curriculum, as well as throughout the school year. We really want to see, and this is the one, you talk about some low-hanging fruit. Khan Academy is free to every single student that has a College Board account. This is an easy thing that we're going to work with our staff to say every kid should be utilizing Khan Academy on a consistent basis, because it will help in their core academic areas, it'll help their math improvement scores, as well as their English reading and writing scores. So that's another, and again, it's low-hanging fruit, it's easy, because it's already done for us. It's free. If you have a College Board account, it's linked to Khan Academy. And Khan Academy, if you ever used it, and I've used it both as an educator and as a parent, it's awesome, because it literally takes what you've struggled with or not done well with on the PSAT and tailors lessons. So if you struggled with the Pythagorean theorem, it'll link you to a couple of different examples and explanations of the Pythagorean theorem and some practice problems. So it's something that we're going to work consistently hard and push for. And then again, as I said a number of times, just working to increase those AP offerings, as well as some ECE and UConn courses, high-level courses for our students, regardless of what they do when they graduate. When I talk to students at the beginning of our school year, I tell every single one of them, my goal for you when you leave East Hampton High School is to have a plan. That might be a 4-year college, a 2-year college, a technical program, a job, a gap year, or the military, but no one's going to walk out of this high school without a plan for what's next. Everybody's pathway is going to be different, but that's the stated goal. So we talk about the class of 2021, last year's students. 128 graduates, and you can see breaking it down where they went. 77 are attending 4-year colleges, which is 58%. 24 will be attending 2-year colleges, which is 19%. And in talking to kids, a lot of kids looked at this, I think, in a really targeted and very mature way. They looked at where they were going to school and what they and their families were getting for their dollars. They want to make sure that, as college is expensive, those of us, I know I'm paying for it right now, some of us have kids there, it's an expensive proposition. They want to be able to go to school and actually go to school, and then not be in classes where they're not in the classroom, but they're taking these other classes online and this and that. So they're really making mature decisions. And then many of them are attending other programs. We had 6 students out of the military, and 14 are taking a gap year. And a gap year isn't, I'm just going to take the year off, kick my feet back, and chill out. You know, there are some students that are volunteering, that are working, that are doing, you know, approved, like they actually have a gap year fair in the West Hartford Public Schools now. You can just go, and you have plans, because when you want to go back and apply to college, they want to know what you did the year off. Whether or not I went to the beach for a year, it was, hey, I went to, you know, AmeriCorps, Job Corps, I volunteered for a year. So that's what our students are doing, and as I've said, every kid's going to walk out with some sort of a plan.
I just want to jump on that gap year thing, because I think that's a percentage that we've seen increase dramatically, especially as a result of the pandemic. It is a situation where families are saying, or students are saying, you know, the price tag associated with college, is it really worth it if I don't know exactly what I want to do? And so for certain kids, that gap year, first, push the pandemic aside, I want to go to school live, I don't want to do virtual classes. And there's still colleges where the experience is part virtual, if not all virtual. But I think there's also a growing segment of the population that says, if we're going to invest $200,000 to $400,000 in a 4-year college, and you don't know what you really want to do, then perhaps it is wise to take that gap year, get a year of maturity under your belt, and decide what you want to do. Colleges will defer enrollment. If you are accepted as a senior, and you say, you know what, can I defer my enrollment for 1 year? Colleges will allow students to defer. So we're gonna track that gap year. Not that we're encouraging students to do that, but for certain students and families, it might be the right opportunity, especially if the gap year is a productive opportunity for the students to grow, especially in maturity. It's a huge investment now for schools. And I think that's why we're trying to diversify where our students are prepared to go. We talk about the manufacturing program, where students are eligible to, you know, go right into a manufacturing career or apply to certain trade schools and then, you know, go right into the workforce. So I think we're just trying to look at every possibility, making sure that, like Mr. Berner said, there is something for you after graduation. I also, Eric, if you wouldn't mind, I just want to harp on another point. Keep going. There's the one. So if you look at last year, and as part of the budget presentation last year as a return on investment, I spoke of the number of students who took AP exams. 89 took 135 exams. This year we had 113 take over 200 AP courses and exams. And that's a pretty impressive amount. And I will gladly stand up at budget time and say, hey, our overall scores went down, but a lot more students took AP exams and took more AP courses. That is a real victory for this board. You've made a push to add AP courses. We've added an extra math teacher, to bring back that department so we could offer a full slate of AP statistics and AP calculus. It's important that our students, like Mr. Vernon said, have access to those AP classes because they truly prepare students for the college experience. And colleges are looking for students to challenge themselves with the AP courses. The AP course, there's a common syllabi, there's a common book, and there is a common exam. It is easy to compare students from East Hampton, Connecticut, to any other state who take AP calculus because you're all taking the same exam. It's harder to compare like an honors calculus at home because the courses could be very different, but that AP course, it's a standard curriculum, it's a standard textbook, it is the same exam across the country. So for our students that are looking to not only challenge themselves with college course at the high school level or challenging courses at the high school level, it is an opportunity for our kids to be compared, a level playing field with any other students in the U.S. One of the pieces of legislation that we're going to talk to you about is access to challenging courses. Our General Assembly wants students to have easy access to AP courses. There are some schools that say, no, you can't take this AP course unless you have an A+ in pre-cal, you cannot be in AP Cal. The General Assembly is doing away with that because they want to see kids challenging themselves. That's already happening here, and as a result of this work that you have done, that the school has done, I don't mind saying, hey, our scores went down, but we went from 135 exams to 200, over 200 exams. And so, the scores may skew down a little bit, but that is something that I would gladly defend, that we're making sure our students have access to those courses.
If the students' grades are low, are they still encouraged to take those AP courses to try to get better? Or
That is the purpose of the legislation, that we not have so many prerequisites that students can't take. Now, if you haven't taken pre-cal, you can't just jump into AP calculus from geometry. There are a few steps in between. But the goal is to encourage students to challenge themselves, rather than say, hey, because you got a B last year or a C last year, you should not take this course. Kids grow and mature at very different rates. And so you can see that we're making these courses accessible. We want to make them even more accessible to students. As far as the SAT goes, you heard me talk all last year at budget time that we were using 100% of our ESSER funds, our stimulus dollars, to improve math scores. And to be at the state average is not where we expect us to be. We expect us to be well above the state average. And I expect you to hold the superintendent accountable over the next 3 years to make sure that our scores do increase.
Eric, I don't know if you know any of the 14 students who are on the GAP program, but I'd love to hear one of their stories. If you know those, you can come back and just have that child who's an adult now and talk about their experience. It'd be wonderful to hear.
I can work with Ms. Sullivan, and we can identify a couple of students and have them, invite them back. I don't have any sway over them anymore. I can make them come back, but I can surely invite them back.
Alex is there to do on Monday.
Don't want to be with us? Well, it says so much about our students, right? That we went, forward with promoting and encouraging and implementing, these additional offerings, and they've clearly chosen to accept the challenge. I mean, that's amazing, to do that and to see the numbers that, clearly many of these students are taking more than one, probably 3, some of them. So I think that's really impressive, and it says a lot about the environment, that they're in, and their own drive and the encouragement, that the school provides them. So thank you. Yeah, that's great. That's really good.
Mrs. Dean encouraged my son Kevin to come back and talk to her a couple times, so she can learn.
Do you know offhand how many ECE courses we do? I know a few might overlap. They might be AP/ECE.
ACE and Child Development 2. And that's another area where I would like to try and add some more courses as well.
Yeah.
And some of it is simply working with the university. It's hard to offer both because the curricula are quite different. Like we've offered the ECE chemistry course in past years, and it's actually very different than the AP chemistry course. So it cuts into is the wrong word, but you can't offer both because of a lot of the same kids. So some of them are similar, and I think it's another area to explore where we can get students some ECE credit as well.
Because you need to have the teachers specially
Correct. There's some
certified and trained.
additional professional
Yeah.
development
Yeah.
outside of AP for them to be able to teach those courses.
Great.
Okay, so now a fun presentation, our field project. If you've driven up during the daytime, you've noticed the back of our building in the fields is it's a construction zone, and it's been awesome to see. I'll just quickly go through many of you, and last year we didn't have this issue, but I've been told that in previous years, if we have a wet spring, we pretty much don't have a baseball field. So we lucked out last year, it was a good spring, but the improvements that we're making, through the fields project, they've already pulled out the whole baseball field from foul pole to foul pole. They're installing, they're regrading it, re-irrigating it, and fixing some of the drainage issues. So that's number one. The track, they were pulling it up last week, so you can see, what it looks like underneath the track surface. So they were outside working, and that was the milling of the track. It was interesting to see how they were doing that, but it was pretty cool to watch as well. And then, so they're gonna be paving this week, the track?
Friday.
I'm sorry?
Next week, I think.
Next week, they'll be all paving, so they'll put down another layer on the track, and then it's gonna sit, and then they'll come back in the early, they need 3 consecutive days of 50 degrees or above, so in the early spring, early to mid-spring, they'll come back, they'll put the surface down, and we'll have a brand new track with regraded facility, a field in the far left corner, a regraded baseball field, and then you can also see some work they're doing on the other side of the track. And these are the tennis courts they look like right now. So the tennis courts are going to be resurfaced, they're milling and laying down the basis for that, and the construction project goes on. But
There'll even be a few pickleball courts.
yes, I mean, that's some pickleball. I know Coach Girardi is extremely excited, as are the kids. The group that is doing this project are awesome to work with. Between the athletic director and Ms. Russell and myself, one of us is talking to them every day, hey, what's going on? So if they're doing some paving, we're saying, hey, to our teachers, just don't go up the back for a mass break. Just make sure, we're keeping people safe out there. Unfortunately, a negative aspect is that we don't have a track for the community to walk on right now. I know that's a popular venue for people to exercise, but we don't have a track whatsoever. And we'll have one hopefully ready to go in the spring.
Just a note on the baseball field, we are not planting grass, they're bringing sod in.
Okay.
So sometime before Thanksgiving, you'll see, probably in the next several weeks, they'll bring the sod in, and that will be ready for them to play on in the spring.
And so the track is completely closed until after it's...
Correct.
Okay.
It's a construction zone, and it's not, like right now, there's nothing there to walk on, but it's going to be closed until they're able to relay the surface in the early spring.
Further questions? Thank you very much.
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. All right.
No, it's quite all right.
Okay, so we come to 3 first reads of policy. If everybody had a chance to look at them, you'll see that they basically all stem from, the changes all stem from the state's requirement that we incorporate social and emotional learning. So we've incorporated that as a goal in policy 0200. We put that in to reflect the requirement. So that's 0200. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions on that one in particular. Further, if we look at the next one, 4131, professional learning, that also inserts the principles and practices of social emotional learning. They'll be integrated throughout the components of professional development. So that is fairly straightforward too, if anybody has any questions on that. And then we have instruction 6142. And this too has a modification specific to social and emotional learning, including the screening assessment that we've talked about before. And
Basically, the
That is
same
it.
piece of
Yep.
legislation has
Yep.
impacted
It's affected those.
each of these policies. So you're bringing these policies up to date based on legislation that was passed.
So it's just a first read. If you have any questions now or next time, we can address those, but it's fairly straightforward. Okay. The next item, where we are now glad that we do have a quorum, so we can vote.
You received a copy of the description of changes in the contract from our attorney. You received a blue line that had all highlights changed in blue, and then you received the final copy of the contract. Thank you very much to Jim and Justin, along with Chris, who served on the negotiations committee. We started in August with the teachers, and we were able to settle a couple weeks ago.
So we are looking for a motion to ratify the EHEA contract from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. You're both there, and you both spent a lot of time on that, so thank you. It's a busy time and very demanding time-wise, so thank you. Does anybody have any comments or questions before we vote? No? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
What happens now is we will give a copy of this to the town clerk tomorrow morning, and then a 30-day clock begins. If nothing happens in 30 days, it automatically becomes the official contract for the next 3 years. The town council does have the option, and it would be at their October 26th meeting, to vote on the contract, should they choose, and they likely will vote on the contract. And if they approve it, then it automatically becomes the contract. If it's rejected by the town council, then it would immediately go to arbitration at that point. So I will keep you posted as to whether the town council plans to bring it up at their October 26th meeting. Otherwise, we'll just allow the 30 days to go by. But I'm assuming that, based on what we've been told, that they likely will examine the contract and vote on it at their October 26th meeting. I'll send you an invitation to that once I get the official word.
Thank you.
And again, thank you very much, Jim and Justin. It's a long labor of toil and a few moments of laughter and a few moments of head scratching sometimes.
It was a great experience.
Learning experience, I think.
Yep.
Call it that.
Thank you. Do we have anything in particular for future business at this point?
I'm going to give you the opportunity to vote on the request of project graduation.
Okay.
And you will be saying goodbye to Jeff and Chris at your next meeting, who are not running. So we'll give them a nice send-off. And we're also inviting the teachers who were involved in the negotiations a chance to come to the meeting and be recognized as well.
Great. Thank you. In the absence of personnel actions, the next item is audience of citizens. If you'd like to speak, just state your name and address, please, for the record. Hearing none. Okay, we have a calendar provided. We had a lot of dates in November, hard to believe, but there we are. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, thank you. Good night, everybody.